So, Patrice, we actually started here at APTN the same day. Do you remember taking the videos in human resources about how to not harass people and all of the things that the corporate world makes you do?
My friend.
You know, and here, one of us is still sitting here, and the other is the CEO of a successful skincare company. You know, at that point, 10 years ago, did you ever think Patrice Mousseau's broadcast career was going to take her down the path of being a businesswoman?
Never, never. I mean, I got into doing broadcasting and reporting because I really wanted to try and make change in the world. After a point, my priorities changed. I had a baby, and then I founded Satya, and I found out that business can actually be a way to do that. It can really be a vehicle for social change.
Well, and you didn't have, this business background. We were talking about, I think some people maybe sitting at home think, well, I could never get into business myself. I don't have a business degree. I've not taken any of those types of courses. I don't have an MBA. Were those thoughts that went through your mind at the time?
Of course, because there's always a certain amount of who am I to do this? Am I good enough? Am I qualified? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, honestly, for me as a business owner, I'm actually very hesitant to hire someone who has an MBA because they just don't. Having an MBA is different than being an entrepreneur. And you have an MBA, you're very good at something specifically, usually in a large company. Mm-hmm. Being an entrepreneur is about problem solving and grit. And we have that especially like moms, we have that in abundance.
This started in a crock pot in your kitchen. And I remember when you moved to Vancouver, and then it grew to you selling this product at farmers markets. And I was like, this is just beyond cool. And then next thing you know, there's Dragon's Den. And then next thing you know, you're a CEO. Your product is sold all over the place. I have trouble getting my head around, this is my friend who I watched this business grow from the ground. What goes through your head as you sit now, looking back over that, how it went, and kind of what were the growth milestones that stand out for you, and how did you know where you were going to kind of go next from there? Sorry, that was 500 questions in one.
No. I remember very specifically the day that I did my first farmer's market. It was awesome. I sold $110, and it was fantastic. It was like people were buying my stuff. Yeah. Now, as you mentioned, we're in about 900 stores across Canada, and we're actually, and this is probably I can make this announcement now. We're just launching in Kroger in the U.S., which is giant. They reach one of every 2 Americans. So it's going to be a big step up for us. Plus, we just also were in Indigo and HBC as well. So that just launched a couple weeks ago. So we're really growing a lot. It's an evolution of the business. It's different from when I started at day one versus what I'm doing today. Your skill sets evolve. You just learn on the job, kind of. You don't have to have everything figured out at the get-go. And also to not beat yourself up for not having every skill. I can barely add, honestly. I'm so bad at the spreadsheets and the, cost analysis, all that kind of stuff. I'm good at other things. You don't have to be good at everything. You just go and do what you want to do and find people to help you.
Well, and how many people has this grown into? How many people do you have working with you now? You're obviously not fulfilling all of these orders out of a crock pot in your kitchen now. What does Satya look like now in terms of the bricks and mortar of it and the machinery behind it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't, as you mentioned, I didn't have a business background. So when I grew my business, I could really create it the way that I wanted to. And what I wanted to do was actually employ people who are stay-at-home moms or caregivers of elderly parents or whatever. So we wanted to pay people at a living wage, which we do, and allow them to work on their own time. So we're very task-based, not hours-based. Honestly, people who cannot work in the usual 9 to 5 time frame usually are really good at getting stuff done very quickly because they have to. So that's been great. We've had all of those are the people that are employed inside Satya. And when the pandemic hit, of course, we were already all working from home, and we had built our community before it hit. So once COVID came, we were actually really well placed to move forward. And that was important because, of course, we ended up getting busier because everyone was washing their hands and wearing masks. So your skin was in deep trouble. So we've actually donated now to 3 hospitals and 3 extended care facilities as well, just because the frontline workers are really using the product now a lot. In fact, I always tell the story of this nurse who emailed me, and her hands were so bad that she was actually crazy gluing them together so she wouldn't bleed on patients, basically. But since using Satya, her hands are back to normal, and her fingerprints have started to grow back, so she can use the biometrics again. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing to see how we're having that kind of impact with people.
You know, you had said you didn't come from a business degree. It's not your jam necessarily. You learn as you go along. Something else you had mentioned to me that I think is really worth noting is, you know, to women watching at home who think that they have an idea and they've got a lot of those conversations in their head that it's preventing them to take that plunge, to make that step, to make this their dream a reality. You know, you'd said there's a lot of danger in keeping these things to yourself. Explain that.
Well, being an entrepreneur is incredibly lonely and isolating because quite often the people in your immediate family or life, unless they've actually run a business themselves, they don't quite understand what you're going through. So when you're interested in starting your own business, the most important thing you can do is find your community. And that would be other female entrepreneurs, I guess male entrepreneurs as well, but I'm really focused on female entrepreneurship right now, because they're the ones who are going to support you and share with you the experience that you're about to move through. And that's key. I wouldn't be here without my community.
Well, where do you even start? And you know, Lynn, who we talked to from Sister Sage before you, she kind of said the same thing. And I feel like, you know, you think of that and you want to reach out and you want to get that kind of network around you, but even that could be daunting. It's like, well, where do I begin with that? Right? What was your first step?
My first step was actually, it was interesting. I found a friend of mine needed someone to interview someone else for a podcast for her. And I ended up meeting this woman, Madeline, and we just ended up hitting it off. I interviewed her. She was like, you need to come to SVI Women, which was a social venture institute. And I saw all these women having businesses that were full of integrity and values, you know, just really sticking to what was true for them. But they were also very successful in what they were doing. And I thought, you know, if that's actually what business is, because my perception of business was always about profit and, you know, kind of sticking it to the little guy and like very male dominated. And it just was never something that I thought I could ever do. But then I went out and I saw all these other people doing things that I could get behind. And I thought, yeah, I can do that too. And that's how when I started my business. It wasn't when I created my Satya bomb. It was almost a year later when I got inspired by seeing all these other women doing good things in the world.
Well, we are inspired by you, and I hope some of the people at home are looking, going like, this is, I was wondering what happened to Patrice, and now that I've seen her face, her beautiful face, and they know what you're up to, and I hope that there's some people who take inspiration from your journey and can make their own business dreams a reality too. And congratulations on, you know, the expansion to the States, to Kroger. This is incredible. Love you, and thanks for coming on.
Love you too, my friend. Thank you.